This is the year 2020. We're 9 months into a worldwide pandemic. Today in this episode, we're talking about Disney and COVID. This is episode 7. I'm Sariah.
I'm Aurora.
And together we're just your average Disney travelers. So I don't know that any of us thought that at this point in December we would still be dealing with shutdowns and quarantines and all of that. I certainly never believed, even when it was obvious that theme parks and things like that would have to be suspended, I never thought it would go on this long. Did you?
Me either.
No, I think it took a lot of us by surprise. Even when we'd hear the projections of, oh, there'll be a second wave and this could go on for months and months and months and over a year even, and I just didn't believe it. And yet here we are, 9 months in, and we are still dealing with some major disruptions to life. I think almost in every area, but certainly with Disney travel. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Some of the destinations are open and some of them are not. And so we're going to talk about that. And then of the ones that are open, what are the limitations? What are the restrictions?
So for the closed ones, there's Disneyland Paris.
Right. So we're going to we will briefly touch on the ones that are not located in the United States. And of course, Disneyland Paris is one of them. And right now, and for all of these destinations, the best up to date, it's changing constantly. So go to the websites, they have listed whether they're open or not and when they're planning to reopen. On Disneyland Paris, it says that they are currently planning to be closed until at least February 2nd. February 12th of 21. And that's just based off of, I think, their government, what their standards are for reopening. It's interesting because Paris was open, Disneyland Paris was open, and they had to reclose. So now they're waiting to reopen again. All right, what's the next one?
The next one is Hong Kong Disneyland.
Yep, that's another one that had opened and closed and waiting to reopen again. And so that one doesn't have a projected date even. So just going to be when the government lets them open, when their restrictions are lifted.
Another one is Adventures by Disney.
Okay, so this is something that not everybody is familiar with, Adventures by Disney, but it's basically it's like Disney's touring company, and you can do tours all over the world. You can do tours all over the United States, and they're pretty cool. They're really just fabulous, top level of service and experience. It's fantastic. We've never done one. It's on my bucket list. I don't know if I'll ever get to that one, especially now that I'm not selling Disney travel. Man, it might be a hard one to reach, but it's on my bucket list, so maybe someday. But they are currently suspending their travel right now. That they're suspending all departures through February 28th. So no Adventures by Disney at the moment.
The next one is Disneyland Resort.
Oh, well, yes, we can go there. I had the next one is that, but that's fine. Disneyland Resort is fine. So Disneyland, this is the one that hurts our hearts the most.
Yeah.
That's kind of why we're doing this, because we miss Disneyland so much. We moved close to it and then it shut down. I didn't think Disneyland would be closed this long, but they are closed. And they're basically right now waiting for the county to reach the level of yellow, which is a minimal risk to the community. Right now they're at blue, which is the lowest. So that's like the worst. That's where they're back into a mandatory stay-at-home order, and they have a long way to go to creep back up towards that level, yellow level. Where they have to be before they can even start talking about reopening. And the sad thing, and this is the saddest thing, is realizing that means we are still likely many months away from going to Disneyland. And that is just sad. Very disappointing. But they have reopen portions of downtown Disney at Disneyland Resort. And so there are some stores, not all, but some select stores are opened at a very limited capacity. And the restaurants right now, because of the stay-at-home order, they're only allowed to have restaurants that do takeout. You cannot eat there. Previously, before they had dropped down to blue, when they were in purple still, they could do outdoor eating, but they can't even do that now. Right now, and I believe this blue level currently is slated, they have to go until at least the 27th of December, and then they're going to reevaluate. So possibly at that point they'll move up to the purple level again. We'll see. That's a little bit of ways, a few days away, so we'll see.
Yeah. And then last one is Disney Cruise Lines.
The Disney Cruise Line is another one that hurts our hearts, and we are booked on a cruise next year, and we're just crossing our fingers that it's open by the time we are supposed to go. But yeah, right now they've just recently announced that all of their departures up until February 21st have been canceled. And also they recently announced that even beyond February 21st, the sailings that are going to be longer than 7 nights have also been suspended for next year, or at least up until a certain point. I'm not sure if it's all of next year or just through the summer, but if you're looking at things like 9-day sailings or 9-night sailings, or more like the transatlantic, or like the Panama Canal that goes a couple weeks, those are all at this point not happening next year, which is a bummer, but I think they're getting closer. I know that they're working on the cruising organization, CLIA, is working on getting cruises back and going, and some are making, some of the cruise lines are progressing towards that faster than others. I know Disney's being extra cautious and making sure that they are completely safe before they start cruising again. And so that's why we're seeing some of these delayed reopenings. But they are encouraging us to continue booking. You can still book future cruises. So if you want to go on the cruise we're going on, which we're hoping we're going on, which actually the sailing we're going on is October 1st. We're hoping to go on with the Disney Wonder out of San Diego, and we're excited. That's going to be a Mexican Riviera 7-night cruise, so we just made it under that limit of 7 nights. But yeah, that they are encouraging you can still book your cruises. They have offered, obviously, if you're familiar with any cruise line, the policies for cancellation, that can be very strict, and a lot of that has been relaxed, of course, because of COVID, so that it's a lot safer to make plans ahead. They've adjusted the final payment dates. They have relaxed some of their policies, like the cancellation policies, and what date you can cancel up to and still get your funds back, so refunds. You can change up to a certain, much closer to your sail date. You can change it to a later sailing if you're nervous still, assuming that that sailing is going, but you're just not comfortable yet, you can postpone it. And so they're giving a lot of flexibility about that, whereas usually with cruising, that's not something you see when you're close to your cruise date. But they're giving us so much flexibility there. And the policy is clear if you go to the website, so you know what you need to decide by when. And so I would encourage doing that, looking if you're interested in cruising, whether it's next year or the year following, because they're actually booking for 2022 already. And so I would just go and be familiar with what that is. These flexible, like these changes, alterations to their policies have like they have deadlines right now. They're not going to be lasting forever, but for this time period where we're actively dealing with the COVID issues, that's when it's being put in place. And so you want to be familiar with those dates as well. But go to the website and check it out, because it's fun to have something to look forward to. And we are looking forward to a cruise again, hoping that it goes through. So we'll see.
Yeah. So there are open places open, like Shanghai Disneyland Resort.
Yeah.
Not Disneyland, sorry. Just Disney Resort.
Which is their Disneyland, yeah. Shanghai, and they're doing a reservation system. So you'd have to make those reservations, like tell exactly what day you're going to be at the parks. That's going to be something we see when we look at the Walt Disney World parks that are open as well.
There is also Tokyo Disney.
Yeah, and I didn't see anything that specifically said anything on their website about reservations. I'm assuming they're also doing that, but I don't know. And honestly, all these foreign ones we haven't been to yet either. Also on our bucket list, especially Shanghai. This one really wants to go to Shanghai. But yeah, we haven't done those yet.
Yeah. Disney Vacation Club is open.
Yeah, so Disney has, this is another one that maybe people aren't as familiar with, but they have destinations that are specifically for the Disney Vacation Club, and those are open. So Vero Beach and Hilton Head Island, those resorts are open. I'm sure that you'd want to look at the website to see what the limitations are. I'm sure there's limited capacity. There are also probably limited activities, some restrictions there, but they're open, and so you can vacation there right now, and that's great. That's great that that's available.
Aulani is also open.
Yes, in Hawaii. And the catch on this one, the biggest thing is to be aware that Hawaii is requiring you to either have a negative COVID test prior to your arrival or to quarantine for 14 days once you get there. So assuming that you don't want to just stay in your hotel room the entire stay, you want to get those COVID tests right before you leave and get that negative result back. I believe if you arrive and you don't have your negative result, you just quarantine until you get that result, and then you can go out. But that's also kind of a risk too, because what if it ends up being positive, then you have to quarantine. So you want to try to get that negative result before you arrive in Hawaii. But then once you do, then you can go, and Aulani is working. They're open. They do have limitations just like all the other destinations. There's going to be capacity levels are going to be lower. They've got different activities, and restaurants may not be available, and these things are going to be changing a lot too. So what's available this week might or what's not available this week might become available in a week or two. I don't know. You want to check their website. They do have a list of specifically which restaurants are open, which activities are still going, or which ones just have alterations done to them to make it more safe. But you'll definitely, if it's one of the things I think with Aulani is, for sure at this point, the way it is right now, I think it's great to go if you've been before. If you've never been before and you really you've done your research, you're interested in going, you want to experience all of the things that you would normally experience in a non-worldwide pandemic situation, you might want to wait then. But if you've been before and you just want to go and relax and have a enjoyable, relaxing trip, then that's still absolutely possible. Just know what the limitations are and restrictions are before you get there, so you don't end up disappointed with which activities you can participate in. So yeah.
Yeah, and then lastly, there's Walt Disney World.
Yeah, we'll save this one for last, because this is the one that I think most average Disney travelers are probably looking at this point. I mean, fewer of us are, I know we aren't exactly on the radar to go off to a foreign, in fact, I don't think we're allowed to leave the country right now, not for that. And so, the Disney World is obviously probably our best and easiest option to go experience Disney during COVID. And so we wanted to talk about that because it's open. They've been open since July, and that's incredible if you think about how Disneyland is still closed. But for the last several months, Disney World has managed to be open and to have a safe and fun and magical environment, even though it looks a lot different than it usually looks. There are certainly some changes that have happened. They're going to be around for a while as we continue to go through this to keep people safe and healthy. But people are going and they're having a magical experience. And we wish we were one of them. It hasn't worked with our schedule or plans or budget or anything, but man, I think both of us, would you go?
Yeah.
Yeah, would you be nervous at all?
Not really, but I'm also very oblivious to a lot of things, so.
Would you feel disappointed about any of the changes or restrictions, do you think?
Probably a little bit, because with the COVID, they're not doing shows or the fireworks or parades, and so I would be a little bummed about not being able to see those. But other than that, I don't know
if it would really be
Yeah.
that. And this is another one, especially again, if you've never been to Disney World and you really want to see the fireworks show, or if you really want to give Mickey Mouse a hug, or, you know, those kinds of experiences, this is not yet the time to go. You want to wait a little bit longer. But if you've been before, or if you know you're not a show person, you really just want to ride the rides, or you're not really, you know, if as long as you see Mickey Mouse and wave hi to him, then you're happy, then this is actually not a bad time to go still, because they need people to go, and I mean, people are going. It's not like they're hurting for it, but we want to see that actively happening still, and we want to make sure that it's supported and that people are having fun and making those magical memories. So let's talk a little bit about what some of those restrictions or limitations or things like that. What would you expect if you're going to go to Walt Disney World during COVID, at least as of today, which is December 13th, 2020. December 14th, it might even be totally different information, but as of right now, what does it look like? So let's see, what are some things that you know about that we should mention?
Face masks, you have to wear them. You cannot just wear a scarf or a neck gaiter. You have to wear either paper ones.
Yeah, like the disposable face masks or fabric one.
Yeah.
Over the ears, covering both your mouth and your nose at all times. And they are really good about making sure they're watching, and they're gonna let you know if you need to adjust your mask if it's not covering properly. So you don't think you can get away with letting it slip or just not wearing it completely. You're gonna have to wear it if you're gonna go to Disney right now. And not only that, but it's for everyone that's 2 years old and up. So even your young kids will have to wear a face mask, which I think at first a lot of people felt like really had reservations about that. Kind of just felt like, ooh, that's asking a lot. But now that we're so many months into this pandemic and it's a common practice to have to wear the face masks when we go to the store or school or work, or, you know, anytime we're out around other people, even children. And I know that most of the time, I think it's 3 and up in most public places. Disney's being a little strict about that, about being 2 and up. But I think that kids are even getting used to this. My neighbor is a kindergarten teacher, and she said those kids they're fine with it. They keep them on all the time. And so you unfortunately, this is an adjustment that has been made. And so we're kind of getting used to it, and so are the kids. So one of the other things you want to mention, the relaxation.
Yeah, they have little areas throughout the parks where you can just like take off your mask and social distance, obviously, and like there's only like a limited amount of people in the area, but like you can just relax and be able to breathe without the mask.
Yeah.
Just take a break.
So if you need a break, if your kids need a break, there are places to go that are designated as relaxation spots, rest and relaxation spots that are specifically to be mask free. And at first when they opened, they had to be really careful about limiting how many people came in at a time to those areas. But as time is going on, like right now, whenever I've seen reports about it, they're not filled. You can go anytime because it's just not a huge demand. People are getting used to, like I said, they're getting used to wearing the masks. And so it's not really been too much of an issue. But when you need that break, you can go and find one of those spots and just sit down or whatever and take your mask off and breathe and feel the sun and enjoy for a few minutes. All right, let's see, what are some of the other things? So we need the face masks for sure, as well as that you're gonna have your temperature taken.
Yes.
Before you enter property. So be aware of that. And the thing is if anyone in your party has a temperature, I think it's 100.4 or higher, then you're going to be turned away. And actually, initially you won't. Initially you'll be taken to another tent where you'll get scanned again. And that's because sometimes if you're rushing from the parking lot or whatever, and you know, maybe it's a hot day and you're sweating and you're warm, it gives you a chance to kind of cool down for a few minutes, and then they scan again to make sure it really is a high temperature and not just a situational temperature. But then once it's determined that there is a fever, then unfortunately the party needs to take that day off. So be aware of that. They are limiting how many resorts are open at this time. Not every resort is open. When I say resort, I'm talking about the hotels. not all of the Disney hotels are open. They do have several open. And so you'll want to check and see what availability is there for the time you want to go. They're slowly opening more and more, I think, but it'll just depend on the dates that you're interested in traveling. And then also when you're planning your park days, it's right now, and probably for a while still, it's required to reserve which park you'll be in. So if you're one of those people who likes to just go and then go to whichever park you're in the mood to go to that day, that's not going to work right now. Decide now what mood you're going to be in each day of your stay, because you're going to need to decide and reserve your spot. They're only limiting, there is limited capacity, but they only have so many spaces. Currently, there is no park hopping. Like I said, this is December 2020. I believe we're expecting next month, so in the new year, they are expecting park hopping to come back. And that's great news. You still will have to reserve a park to start at, and you'll go there first. You have to go to that park before you can hop. And then you can only hop after 2 p.m. So if there is space in the park you want to hop to, and they'll keep that updated on apps so you can check on the Disney's mobile apps. If there's space, then you can hop over and you can go in. And of course, you'll need to have had the hopper option on your tickets. But if you have that and there's room, then you can do that. If the park is still filled, then you would not be able to go in. And I think the reason why they chose 2 o'clock is partly because that's kind of when there's a little bit of a lull. A lot of people will go back and kids take a nap, or they'll go for a swim, or they take a break. And so it's common that that's actually a time where they do see a little bit of a drop. So it's likely that you're going to be able to have that opportunity to hop, which is really good because a lot of people really enjoy that option. So, all right, let's see what other changes should we expect.
There will be reduced hours.
Yeah. So parks are all opening at different times and later than usual. In fact, there'll be times where Epcot might not open till 11 or noon. And that's not normal. So what's happening with this is it's making for a lot more relaxing trips because people are sleeping in. In the same sense, they're not open as late. The parks are not open as late because there's not night shows or fireworks or things like that. So again, people are not staying up as late. Usually Disney park trips, they're exhausting.
Yeah.
You're going from sun up to sundown and past, and it's tiring.
Especially if you're a part of a group that tends to walk a lot.
True. Yeah. Yeah. If you're going all over seeing things, then you're getting a lot of legwork and you're really tired. But right now, what we're hearing from those that are going is that it's a really relaxing trip, very enjoyable. People are sleeping in. They're having, going for the leisurely walks in the morning before they go to the parks or things like that. And sometimes what people are doing in the evening, you'll see people will switch and go over to Disney Springs. So you might see an increase there in the evenings, although mostly that's not really until the weekends. The weekends is when Disney Springs is getting, and that's Disney Springs, if you're not familiar with Walt Disney World, is basically their downtown Disney, but it's like bigger, lots bigger. But that area gets pretty busy on the weekend, especially right now with COVID, but since a lot of things aren't available. So,
yeah.
But anyways, yeah, the park hours are a lot shorter. Now that can be also a negative. Like I said, it can be great because it helps you have more relaxing trip, but it can be a negative. People are thinking about, that means we're getting less time in the parks, and that's true. But just keep in mind that the capacity levels are really low. This is on par with and Disney World doesn't really have really slow seasons anymore. It used to be that there'd be times of the year that the park capacity, naturally just it was a slower season, off-peak season. And they technically kind of still have that, but with all of the festivals and activities that they have going on throughout the year nowadays, it's really hard to have a time of year where it's not busy there. And so this is what it's kind of used to be like, or is like on the very, very quietest of days is what you're seeing right now, even though it doesn't necessarily feel that way because of the social distancing where the lines look long, but they're not as long as they look. And because you can't do indoor gatherings, people are all out in the same outdoor areas, so it feels busier, but the truth is you have fewer people. And even though, there are still we're seeing the wait times come back. When we first saw Disney World reopen, man, people were loving that first couple months. they're coming back saying that there was no wait times and they could just keep riding all the rides and get everything done in 3 hours. And I don't think that's there anymore. I think that you've got a lot more than there was over the summer, but still, it's so much less than what you normally see, a typical Walt Disney World trip.
Yeah.
So even though you've got shorter hours, you're competing with fewer people, and so you're still able to do a lot of things. So anyways, okay, what else? What other things should we bring up?
They have a lot of hand sanitizing stations.
Yeah. You're going to see them at the end of every ride. You're going to see them frequently. I've heard it's as frequent as you see garbage cans. I mean, they're just going to be everywhere, which is really, really helpful. I've also heard that they dispense a lot of hand sanitizers. So you might get one from one person. It might last for 2 or 3 people. You might be sharing a little bit. But yeah, excellent opportunities to be sanitized, to stay clean. One of the things, we're hopping around a little bit here, but I wanted to go back to just even prior coming to the parks, or when you're arriving at the parks. In addition to the temperature screenings, the security lines look different now too, where now everyone goes through a metal detector, and then if you're flagged, if it goes off, then they will search your bags. But it used to be you'd go and every bag got checked, and you'd have to make sure all your zippers were open and all that. Right now, as long as you don't trigger anything, then you can go through, and that's how they're kind of keeping the line going. One of the suggestions is if you have something that you know is going to trigger, like if you have camera equipment or anything that's metal, like anything that you know is going to likely trigger the metal detectors, one of the suggestions is to kind of take it out of your bag before you go through and kind of hold it in your hand, because if they see that's what it is, it senses which bag it is that they need to look in, and if they see what this triggering it is in your hand and they can see what it is, you're less likely to have to then get searched. So that's a tip if you're going. But otherwise, yeah, that's the security system. They're also not doing the fingerprint at Walt Disney World. For those who haven't been to Walt Disney World before, you generally, when you're going through, you scan your Magic Band and you do a fingerprint, and they've done away with the fingerprints at the moment. I don't know for how long. I don't know if they'll come back or not. We'll see. That's how it is with a lot of this stuff. We'll see what stays and what goes, but for now, no fingerprints. Okay, what other things do we need to talk about?
I've already mentioned this before. There's like most of the shows, fireworks and parades are suspended. There's no meets and greets.
Yeah, but they do have some other great things going on in place of that. So they have these cavalcades where it's not a parade, but it may be one float from the parade, and it's not scheduled, so you don't know when it's going to happen and you don't know which one it'll be, but just randomly throughout the day you're going to see these come out. And I mean, honestly, if you're keep paying attention and keeping your eye out for them, you could see a whole parade just done in pieces, one piece at a time. But even at Animal Kingdom, that doesn't usually have parades so much. They have the floats on the water. And what's cool is the relaxation area. One of the areas is right there on the water too, so you can even just be there relaxing, and you'll see the characters go by on the floats, and you can wave to them and say hi and stuff. And instead of meet and greets, yeah, it's sad that we can't do that right now, but they are setting up as many as possible where they have still character experiences, where there's a character available, and they might even be able to talk to you just from a distance. And a lot of times what we're seeing is when they have it set up where you can meet characters, they specifically arrange it so that they're behind and you can do a selfie and they're in the picture with you. So you can still get your pictures with them. It's just not with your arm around them, and it's not going to be, contact. But so they're finding ways, and the feedback that we're hearing is that people are still feeling like it's a very magical experience, and they're feeling satisfied with how it's been done, and they're very happy with those experiences.
Yes.
All right, so anything else? What's the next thing you want to bring up?
I think that's it.
Okay, that's all that was on your list. I've got a few more. So there are currently no fast passes available for the attractions. And Disney World does fast passes differently than Disneyland does anyways, but currently none. And we don't know when that'll come back. I think it will soon, hopefully, I don't know. But for now, one of the reasons why they can't is because they've had to redo some of their lines to make it so that you can be social distanced. And so some of that ate up FastPass space, and so or FastPass line space, and so that's one of the reasons. And I'm sure that there's more, but currently no FastPasses.
Do they still have the single rider lines?
I don't think so, but to be honest, I don't know. I would assume that that is probably in the same boat. I'm gonna guess, but yeah, I'm not really sure. And what I've been hearing is that when you use the app and it'll tell you the wait times, the estimated wait times for different attractions, what I've been hearing is that usually, and not always, but in most cases, the actual wait time has been significantly less than what the app said. So if the app says there's a 60-minute wait time, often it's been more like 35 minutes. And so, so the wait times really haven't been super bad. You'd still want to know which attractions tend to get the longer lines, and that's the one you want to go to first and do that. Be strategic, but you can certainly, even without any fast passes, go and get a lot done and be able to enjoy your experiences. Let's see, what other things? There's dining. Let's talk about the restaurants, because not every restaurant is open right now. In fact, not every store is open. There are some that are just closed, and then there are some things in the parks that have just been altered. But for dining, there's some things have been great. So like I think we've mentioned this before in another podcast, where you can actually mobile order at more locations than they have in the past now, which is super convenient. Mobile ordering is where you order it on your app, and so then when you arrive to the restaurant, you basically just pick it up. It's already been ordered and prepared, and then you just pick it up. They've also made it so that some of the restaurants that are dine-in, so table service restaurants, some of those now offer takeout, which they didn't before. And that's great too. So, which is necessary also, because for social distancing, they have to limit how many tables and chairs and things they have set up, and so they can accommodate fewer people. So now they have the option to take it with you and maybe go back to your hotel room or to find another spot to eat at is good. One thing to keep in mind if you're at one of the restaurants is those tables are going to be reserved exclusively for those who are eating from that restaurant. So if you've packed in your lunch, you're not going to be able to go to a restaurant and sit at their table and eat your lunch. So be prepared for that. Let's see. Disney World is cashless right now. They're really encouraging you to use your your credit cards, or Disney gift cards. They still, and along with the mask thing, I think we've mentioned it before too in other episodes, but they are not allowing you to eat while you walk. You have to be actually sitting and eating to take off your mask. You can't just take it off and say, oh, well, let me eat this popcorn as I wander throughout the park the entire day. So be prepared for that, because that's different. We do often take a snack and munch while we go. That is not going to happen. However, if you're in a line, you can eat in line when you're outside, because you're social distanced at that time. But once you're indoors, so if it's a line that is inside, or sometimes it's outside and then it goes inside, when you're in the indoor portion, you will not be able to eat and drink while you're in line. So, I think that's almost it. I have one more. Transportation. Transportation, they still have lots of transportation options. Pretty much everything, I believe, is still going. Be aware that if you're taking Disney's Magical Express from the airport, they are not going to pick up your luggage for you. You have to go get your luggage and take it to the bus. I don't know how long that'll last, but that is currently, as far as the last I saw, how the policy is going right now, procedure is going right now. Another thing about transportation, I've heard that at the buses that are taking you from your resort to the parks, that the driver is actually seating you. And so he'll say how many are in your party, and then they'll tell you where to sit. And they have the plexiglass, like you had mentioned before. There's plexiglass dividers all over in lines and in transportation all over. But there'll be plexiglass to divide from different groups, and he'll tell you where to sit, and that's where you sit. No more squeezing in like sardines, smashing in, standing up, and like the good old days. But and that does mean that sometimes you're waiting longer for buses during the popular times. So be aware of that. But I think that they're trying to send around more buses, and I think that's also one of the reasons why parks are opening at a staggered time, so that they have more buses available for the times that are going to be for that park opening. Yeah, but anyways, I think that's about it. We would totally go if it worked with our schedule and everything. Unfortunately, I just don't see a time. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to. As long as the longer Disneyland goes without opening, the more I want to look at the calendar and figure out maybe we should just give up on Disneyland for now and go to Disney World. I know that she'd be for it, right, Rory?
Yeah.
Honestly, I would be happy going on, like Aulani is open. I think that would be a fantastic trip too. But you got to be careful. You got to be safe. One of the things that they mention on their websites, and it's just common sense, is that anytime you're in a public area, there is an increased risk of contaminations, and so be aware, be mindful, be careful, be safe, wear your masks, use your hand sanitizer, distance yourself from other groups, but it's possible to go. One thing to mention, Walt Disney World has been open all these months and they haven't had any outbreaks that are attributed to anyone going to Walt Disney World. And so it's clear that in these last months they've been able to do it safely. People are still having, and they've been able to adjust because they know they had to take away some things. They've been able to add or change things to make it so it's still magical and a wonderful experience. And I think that it's worth considering. So if you are aching for Disney like we are, if you're missing it, it's still possible. And give it a thought and think about it, and maybe do some looking into it, do your own research, and check out the website and see what the policies are. And, book a trip. Go and have some fun. Experience some magic. I think we're all overdue on that.
Yeah.
For sure. Anything else you want to add?
Nope.
We're good? All right. Well, we'll see you next week.
See you.